end of the exercise, you will start by demonstration, start by explanation, or both in the same time, okay? Student performance and instructor supervision are always carried out concurrently during the initial stage of training. Students should not be allowed to make a major error at this time. It means that your supervision must to be. It doesn't work on the TV. Your supervision, very important, must be close enough to detect the start of an error, and you must correct the student at that point. It means that, for example, remember, I will tell you all the time, when you are close to the ground, your left hand is collective, under collective. In case of emergency, you can pull and take off, okay? So please, don't forget, all the time when you are close to the ground, your hand below the collective, just below, because the danger of this is maybe sometimes you have the controls, the students think he has the control, but not, it's you have the control, so take care of this, okay? I will explain later how to do it, okay? Sometimes you remember, maybe when you are flying with me, when I need you change something on the cyclic, I push with my fingers like this, with my thumb. I say more, maintain. I don't take the cyclic to say, okay, maintain. I don't do it at your place, okay? So try to do the same. Try to give the way to follow to your student, okay? The student should be allowed to perform the task in small segments with you providing supervision of each segment. I mean, and especially with initial course and young pilot, when you are going to perform maybe peer report approach, so first, you are going to check and to give them a reference to start the descent, okay? And after, you are going to explain how to reduce the speed, 65 to 40 knots, okay? And after reaching, LGP, and after 50 knots, nose up and so on. But you are not going to do it all the exercise in the same lesson, in the same flight. Okay, you are going to start to work this. First, try to maintain the path, maintain the speed. Okay, and after in the second flight, you are going to work on this. You understand? So you have to work on each segment, because if you explain to your guy, okay, today you have to do this, that, this. No, I cannot do it. Okay? So try to give objective at your student before each flight, each task. Okay?
This is of course depending on your student. So if some students are able to do it, okay, maybe you can let them do. For me, the best example of this sentence is when you start teaching the hover or the flight. You are not giving the student pitch, roll, and yaw, and collective. You will tell him, okay, first, I am in charge of the yaw and the collective. Try to maintain the aircraft in hover, just to start. And when he starts being able to do, okay, so now you are in charge of the collective and the pedals to understand the connection between pedals. So you split the exercise in different parts, just to give him less, to require less resources to work on each one. And when he starts being able, of course, we don't spend 2 hours doing hover, we just spend 15, 20 minutes maximum per flight hour. Then you give him the control in level flight to feel the amplitude of the control. But you really have to split the exercise in many small parts to make sure that he can focus on each one instead of having a big picture to take care and he doesn't have enough resources to do it. Okay?
And to add something, exactly as Florian said, when you are working on hovering maneuver, maybe on 1 hour of flight, I don't know 1 hour, 1 hour, it's not very important. As Florian said, you are going to work maybe 15 minutes in hovering, but not 15 minutes staying on the ground. No, 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 no. Maybe you work 5 minutes, take off, make a pattern, come back, landing, try another exercise, 5 minutes, take off, make another exercise in flight, coming back to the ground, and other 5 minutes. Never you stay 15 minutes on the ground to maintain the
Today we do
hovering.
hover. Today we do the hover. 1 hour hover.
Today 1.5 hovering. Okay, understand the philosophy? So you have all the time. What is very important, you remember, I told you many, many times, you are working for your student. You are not working for you. So you need to know if your student is in good condition, in good health, he slept well, and so on. His baby didn't scream all the night, and so on. Okay, evaluation, very important. Evaluation portion of the demonstration performance method is where students get an opportunity to prove that they can do the maneuver without assistance. What does it mean? It means that when you are an instructor, at a time you have to check if your student can do the exercise alone without your help. Like this, you can decide the notation is on average, below average, or above average, okay? Because if you are always helping him, you will never know exactly if he can do the exercise alone, okay? So when you teach a new exercise, you perform several exercises, and at the end, okay, now you do it. Sometimes I do it with you. I say nothing, and I say, okay, we land. I say nothing, and you just look. And after you can know if you can go on the flight. Okay for this? Understand? Success or failure during the evaluation stage of the lesson will determine whether you carry with the next exercise or repeat the lesson. I don't know how you work in Thailand, in France. So for your information, so we have 135 hours to be a professional pilot. Okay, I don't know exactly, maybe 80 flight or something like that. I don't know. I don't have in my head. And you can have maybe 10 flights you can do another time. Okay, if the flight is not good, you can do it one more time. Okay, in case of, and after, if the level is not enough, you have a, I don't know what you say.
Evaluation board, which is taking care of stopping you or keeping you on the process.
Maybe giving you more hours to train and decide if you can go on or not. Okay?
But technically as well, one point, it's not because the trainee is able to perform an exercise himself at the end of the flight session, that it means that he will be able to do it alone at the beginning of the following session. So because when you repeat, I take as an example auto rotation. So when you fly auto rotation, I always tell my guys, the goal is to make acceptable auto rotation on the first shot instead of very good on the 10th shot. Because in the real life, you have only one shot. So it's better to be acceptable, not best one, but acceptable from the first one than expert at the 5th or 7th one. Okay? So when he said we have to know if the trainee is able to perform the exercise, but don't ask the guy to be perfect. He's not an instructor, he's a trainee. So what he needs to do is something acceptable, not below average. If it's above average, it's fine, but it should be acceptable. And sometimes it's by chance because he repeated 6, 7, 7 times. So this day he has the feeling of the weight, of the response of the aircraft and everything. So it's good to repeat it again, one more session later on, just to feel if he has really understood or if it was just by chance the first time. Okay. Nevertheless, you will get use of that, and you will see if the trainee is doing acceptable or not because of what you can expect by analyze. Okay, this is not perfect, but it's safe and he would survive. So this is the most important. So its evaluation is something which is quite difficult to do. And I don't remember what I was just thinking about. Be careful not to evaluate at the end of the training. Even if it gives you an idea, it's not always a very efficient way to check. It's better to repeat the exercise later on, just to see if the guy have learned something, if his skill is good enough from the first shot. Okay? But this is more examination stuff than evaluation on the training. But be careful, evaluation on the training has always this trap to evaluate at the end of the exercise when the guy is warmed up and he's familiar to do it. So it's always higher level than the first one on the second level, the following lesson.
And the best way to do that is at each flight, when you start the flight, you request to your trainee, to your student, to perform exercise you did at the flight before, the previous flight. And you say nothing, just, okay, now you perform a traffic pattern with a clear heliport landing or Cat B landing or something like that. You just stay here. Of course, you have to never let if the safety is engaged, of course. But let him do, okay? And after you check, okay, at the end of the class, okay, what do you think? Yeah, take care, and final, you start to descend maybe earlier or later, and so on, okay? So after each flight, when you start the next flight, you try to perform exercise you did at the previous flight, okay? Nice. Rules for using the demo performance method. Give a perfect demonstration. Perfect demonstration. Your job, not your student. Okay? Or if not practical, off. Or if not practical, show. So we finish what? Give a step-by-step explanation to the required task. It's exactly what I explained for the approach. Okay, today we are going to work this, and after this, and so on. Okay. Use reason, example, and comparison to make the explanation clear. Don't hesitate to explain why we do this kind of exercise. Because in mission, when you are landing in a confined area on a rooftop, we are going to use this kind of approach. For example, the day you perform VTOL 1, so surface level takeoff and landing is the day you are performing takeoff and landing on a rooftop. It's why we are going to perform VTOL 1, because we will use this kind of approach. On VTOL 3 confined area, you did everybody with me the confined area takeoff and landing. And when you are working on VTOL 3, you can explain why we are going and so on. Okay? Try to give a reason why we are teaching this exercise. Okay? Continue until the student has imitated each step. Provide student practice with assistance as necessary. Yes, something very important, and unfortunately I couldn't do that with you. It's because I was alone with 12 guys, and the best is to have rhythm. You understand rhythm? It means when you are flying only one time a week, it's not enough. five times a week for a student is too much. But one time is not enough, because after I forgot many things. Okay? The best is to perform 3 flights a week. It's a good reason. Because after, if you do it five flights per week, each week, maybe during 1 month, 2 months, at the end, your student is completely tired.
And moreover, you must make sure that the student doesn't have alternate jobs in between the training. He must focus on the training. The training we are doing with you right now, guys, is not efficient because you all have your own duty, because it's not a beginner training. It's you're already qualified, you're the inspector, so you have your own duties you have to take care of. But this, keep in mind that it's not the most efficient way of training. It's good when you do a training to have the training dedicated to the training, and if possible, not flying another type while you are training. In Russia, when you are doing a training to a guy, he's not allowed to fly within 6 months another type, to make sure that he's focusing on his type.
It's very important, yes.
So we know that you are not doing what you want, so you have to follow the requirements of your position. But if it's possible, try to make it possible to summarize, to reduce the workload and to reduce the range of the duty to allow the guy to focus on the single type.
Very important, this one, this rule. While you are demonstrating and explaining, your student listens and observes. While your student is performing, you listen and observe. Never ask the student to perform while you are explaining. Okay? It's exactly the same when your student finishes his exercise, you are here and you debrief the exercise, you take the control. You remember when I am with you, I say, okay, I have the control, and I explain to you what you did. Because if you are talking and your student is in a ring like this, yes, okay? So, debriefing, your student doesn't have the control, and just listen what you have to say, okay?
Or you select the autopilot, you let the autopilot do the job, so we can have more resources for you.
Complete the exercise with an evaluation, final checkup with students, which students have the opportunity to prove that they can do. We discussed about this a few minutes, okay? Never just explain and demonstrate a skill or procedure for students. Always ask students to perform the skill to ensure that the skill or procedure is done properly. Stick with students until the skill is done correctly. Is it okay for this first part? You understand?
I would just add one point, and it's not on the thing, but I'm sure GB will agree.
I agree.
When you teach something, I always summarize, first of all, you have to keep in mind that everything happened is your fault or your responsibility. It's never the responsibility of the training. Okay? So this is something which must be crystal clear. If something happened, it's because you failed. So try to not say because the training was did wrong. No, even the mass movement on the ground is your fault. The training is not qualified. So you are the captain, you are the one who knows and who is in charge of the safety and the security of the aircraft. Okay? So this is the first point. So never escape your responsibility about that. Until the guy is qualified, you are in charge. But then I always say something else, which is we have 3 ways to. We have when we teach, you demonstrate first step. Okay? Then you let the guy do. And what I always say to avoid problem, you have 2 ways to correct. The first is correct by voice. You say, okay, for those who have flown the auto rotation in IMC with me, when you do the exercise, I'm here, up, nose up, up. I'm telling you, I'm helping you by voice. I'm not on the control. So this is the first step. You are just guiding the trainee during a flare, during whatsoever. You just helping by voice. This is the first step. The second step is then there is a matter of safety or accidents or something, then you have to be under control. So this is always a step we never like to reach because we are messing up a little bit the training exercise, the training exercise. But this is a step you have to be ready to cross and to be ready for. Okay, so always we all want to give a demonstration and the trainee does it without even being helped by voice, but this is not possible. Then most of the time you will help him by voice, but you have always to be ready to take the control, and then no problem, we will repeat the exercise. We don't care. We have lost 5 minutes, but no problem. Then we still have an aircraft which is airworthy and we can repeat the exercise. So it's never a failure to take the control, it's just because the trainee needs more time, has more resource, needs more resource available to do it. So it's never a problem to grab the control. You are only here to protect the aircraft and to be able to train against this exercise, okay? So for me, one of the key points is first, demonstration we spoke about, but then the two way of helping the trainee by voice or by taking the control, okay? No question about that? Tu agree?
Absolument. I was thinking about something when Florian was talking. Try, especially when your student has difficulties in flight, when there is no problem, it's not good. But when your student has difficulties, try to use all the time we. I mean, don't forget, we are going to do everything to perform and to improve your level and so on, okay? Avoid you. Like this, your trainee will be rassuré.
Yeah, insert or confident, a little bit more confident.
Yeah. The relationship between you and your student is very important. Okay? Your student need to trust you. Okay? Especially here because you are 12 instructors and the first batch maybe 5-6 guys for the first training course. 6 pilots you will have. So maybe it's going to be complicated for them to fly and to change often the instructor, okay?
You really need to have a standard to make sure that they are not lost.
Very complicated, very complicated.
I have another point I would like to explain that is maybe not so important for you because you will teach in Thai language, so there is no problem of misunderstanding, but it's still something you have to think about. I will just give you an example of what happened to me. In IFR training, always make sure for any training, IFR or VFR, that your trainee really does understand what you mean. And it happened to me because for you it's obvious. You have done this exercise 1,000 times, so everything is obvious. So when you tell the guys we are going to do an auto rotation, I want you to stop the auto rotation, in your mind you imagine a short field. But you are doing it on the runway which is 1,000 meters. So the trainee doesn't see the short field you have in your mind. He sees the runway he has in front of him. So he will do the rotation based on what he sees, not on what you imagine. So you must make crystal clear the scenario, the environment you want to play or simulate to be with. And you have to make sure that what is obvious for you is obvious for the training. This comes my example. In IFR training, I was doing unusual attitude with a Russian customer, and as most of you know, I always train this by asking you to fly with the eyes closed. Okay, you have done it. Just to prove you that it's impossible to fly the aircraft only by feeling internal gear and feeling on the body. Okay? So I told him, okay, so you close your eyes and you fly, and when I tell you open your eyes, you open your eyes and you realize that the aircraft is not on the same altitude that you are expecting, and then you perform an unusual altitude recovery. It was very clear, he did it several times, it was perfect, I was really happy. I said, okay, now let's go for unusual altitude, you close your eyes, and when I tell you, you have the control, you recover. Okay, fine. For me, it was crystal clear. For the interpreter, it was crystal clear, but not for the trainee. So what happened? We went, unusual attitude, so I was quite confident because the guy was quite efficient. So I brought the aircraft in an unusual attitude and I told him, you have the control. And then nothing arrived as expected because he didn't understand that he had to open his eyes. So he tried to recover by feeling. So I can tell you when you put the aircraft like this and he tries to recover by feeling, you are not going on the correct way. So then I was surprised, expecting something good. I got something not as good as expected, so I react on the control. Fortunately, I was close enough to react and say, what the hell are you doing? So you didn't ask me to open your eyes, my eyes. So okay, so just to show you that then I realized, yes, my training, my exercise explanation has not been clear. So maybe you remember that when we did this exercise, I told you, when I will tell you, you have the control, you open your eyes and you check on the instrument panel to recover. So I learned by my mistake that next time I have to be a little bit more accurate on the condition of the exercise. So always be careful about what you see and what you transmit as exercise picture and parameters. Okay, so it's not because it's obvious for you that it's obvious for the trainer.
Be sure that your student understood exactly what you request. Okay, you remember when we flew on confined area? All the time I request, okay, do you see your field? You remember that? You have to do the same. As explained from a few minutes ago, when you are performing an approach on the main runway, if you don't say exactly, if you don't request the landing point where you want to maintain the path, you can imagine you can take the threshold 1.6 or you can take the threshold 0.5, 3.4. Okay? And you cannot know if your student maintained the path during the approach because you don't know exactly where it is. You understand? Okay, so be sure that your training, as I explained to Poon on Friday, we discussed a long time. Don't hesitate. It's better to lose 3 minutes because instead of lose 10 minutes. I mean, sometimes you want to perform something very quickly because spider, because Black Hawk, and so on. Okay. Just an example, spider, but I don't like those guys. I explain. Okay, maybe you have another aircraft coming here and you want to make an exercise very quickly because you will see when you are instructor you are always late. Always, all the time.
Always.
Okay, it's like this. So you be okay. We may. I don't remember how it was with squeeze. I don't remember. So you have to perform auto rotation and you turn very shortly and you start and unfortunately you are too long and you have to go around and make another one. And so if you lose 3 minutes, you can perform your exercise and not go around and now you lose 10 minutes.
We have
Okay?
to say on school, we say the success of an exercise is 60% within the preparation, inside the preparation. If you take the time you need to prepare your exercise, it's almost 60.
Thank you, Florian.
If you rush it, you can be almost sure that you will miss it. And we always tell it when we prepare the trainee for the examination, we tell them, guys, you are going to fly 1 hour with the examiner. Take your time. Of course, don't do a Boeing 747 pattern because he will say, okay guys, we are helicopter, maybe you can rush a little bit. But if you spend nice time to prepare yourself, to be well established to do the exercise, first of all, instead of flying 4 exercises, you will fly only 3, but they will be most likely successful. You are not here to please the examiner and to fly 5 exercises unsuccessful. You are here to take your own interest in priority. So you prepare your exercise. It's the same for an instructor. We always, all of us, we fail on this because we are instructor, we want to demonstrate, we don't want to waste time for the trainee, so we rush. And most of our demonstrations which are cheap, it's because we have been too fast on the preparation. So, especially during a demo, take your time, take enough distance and enough room for your exercise to have the maximum chance of being successful. Okay?
It's why all the time when we arrive in final, on base leg, in final 1-6, I say, guys, 65 minimum, 500 feet, or 6 altitude, or radio altitude, okay? Before to prepare, okay, now I'm arriving on my angle, start safety, start to descend, reduce my speed to 40, and so on, and so on, and so on. Because if pool is coming at 3 and squeeze at this and the other one, when the student is going to change and to fly with commander, with Skywalker and so on, okay, which attitude you want to complicate, okay? So when you perform a demonstration, take your time, explain, okay?
And you send a message as well to your training. If you are doing every time very quickly, he will try to do the same. If you show him that we can take time to prepare the exercise, he will do the same. You say, you know this say, monkey see, monkey do. It's exactly see. If you do something wrong, he will think it's normal. He has not enough experience to establish if it's good or not. If you make a quick stop just for fun, he will do quick stop just for fun because he will think that it's a normal way of doing. So you must really force yourself to remain professional, not have any fun during training. It's not, you are not here to have fun, you are here to transmit something which is professional. So training is everything except but fun, because you are not here to have fun. You are here to be as accurate as possible and as demonstrative as possible. So this is as well one of the goals of the training.
Another example, and it's very complicated, it's the slope area, especially with the 135 and 145 due to this fucking mass moment, you know? Because with other helicopters, you don't have, it's not a problem. But with this one, you have to check and to survey all the time this mass moment. It means that normally when you teach the slope, you land, you make the demonstration and you do it step by step. First, safety, first kids landing, and after mass command into the slope, and after collective down, and so on. But your trainee, his job is not to stay on the ski during 5 minutes and to explain and so on. It's not his job, it's your job. Okay, so if you don't explain to him that we have to land as soon as possible, you understand when I say that. We don't have to say, because you will see, it's very complicated for him to maintain an helicopter like this. When you start this kind of exercise, for you now it's easier, but for him it's complicated, very complicated. Okay?
And you don't do it at the beginning of the training, you always do it at the end of the training, because
Yes.
it requires a feeling of the aircraft, so this is something you don't have at the beginning.
Yeah.
I have as well something. The flight manual must be the reference for every each of you. So try not to demonstrate something which is not on the flight manual. Try not to modify things which are. So the Bible is the flight manual. So this must be the common base for all of you. You all are working with the flight manual. Then you have a chance to be at least standard on the exercise and on the way of teaching it. Okay. So, for those who fly the slope landing with me, I will demonstrate you as well exactly as it's written on the flight manual. But it's, I try always to refer to the flight manual, even if, by the way, I teach it slightly different, but it's not going against the flight manual. It's following the flight manual, but I have a very specific pedagogy on the slope landing, which has been showed by an older instructor in Germany. So just for you to understand the way you do it, but it doesn't go against the flight manual. It follows the flight manual, but with highlighting some aspect of the slope landing. Okay? But this is, I think it's the key word, always refer to the flight manual. When I fly the tail rotor failure, I explain why I turned off the autopilot. I guess you have been in Germany for the tail rotor failure, and they tell you, oh, we have the aircraft which is doing oscillation, so we turn the auto. So I've been fighting you 8 years with my colleague in Germany. I said, this scenario is bullshit. Because when you do the examination, and you tell the guy, oh, we have a tail rotor failure, the first thing they're doing, removing the autopilot. I said, why? In the real life, if you have a tail rotor failure, please keep your autopilot on. He is maybe going to assist you, to help you, if you have the SEMA acting on the tail rotor. So, and this is not something which has been done intentionally to confuse you, but because you need to turn off the autopilot for the tail rotor failure. So they said, oh, let's do a scenario which is refreshing the knowledge on the autopilot and tail rotor. I say, yes, you can do every scenario you want, but the problem is that the trainee understands tail rotor equal decoupled autopilot, which is a negative thing. So always try to refer to the flight manual and don't teach something which is not on the flight manual.
Okay. We go on. Next step, we are going to talk about the fault analysis. So very important, because if you don't explain the fault to your student, if you don't give him a medics, okay, to change the skills. So fault analysis is necessary at all levels of flight training, of course. The ability to debrief effectively does more to separate the successful instructor from the poor. Sure, you will be a successful instructor, not the poor one. You must realize that the sole purpose of fault analysis is to improve future student performance. Okay? Try to avoid, especially when you start with the guys, with the student, avoid to tell him, okay, how was your approach, how was your pattern, how was your and so on. It's not his job, it's your job. I do it with you because tomorrow you are instructor, and during the flight with Florian and I, sure, you will perform demonstration, and at the end of the demonstration we will tell you, okay, what do you think about your demonstration? Because your job is to know exactly if you perform a good demonstration or a bullshit demonstration. Okay? And after I try to improve your skills. Okay? Understand the philosophy? But for a young student, for a young pilot, it's not his job, it's your job.
Yeah, not at the first exercise, but my opinion, I will say differ a little bit, but sometimes, depending on the trainee, sometimes it happens that I ask him what he detect as a mistake during his exercise. Okay, just to see if he is able to, maybe he sees the things but he cannot correct them, or if he doesn't see anything. So this is something you have to know if it's just because he has not enough resources but he still sees the default, or if he sees but he doesn't care. So you have different kind of character on the trainees. So I would say don't do it at the first time you do an exercise with a young trainee, because of course he doesn't see anything. But sometimes it's something you can keep in mind to use just to troubleshoot what's going wrong with the trainee. When you are reaching the limits of your pedagogy and you have no idea what to do, so you can ask your guy, okay, what do you think about this exercise you have done? What do you think I'm going to tell you as a debriefing? So just to figure out if he noticed or not what the mistakes are. And then you have to work on, okay, why didn't you correct them? So if you see them, why don't you correct them? So is it because you are missing of resources, or is it because of something else? Okay?
So, I finished? Yes. Sorry. Valid critique contains 3 essential elements: strengths, weakness, specific suggestion for improving. It's the most you see normally. All the instructor can see the fault. But the question is from where is coming. Okay? Because to say, okay, your path is too steep or it's too shallow or I don't know, it's not complicated. But why we are on this position? Okay, you understand? So it's the difficulty is here, is to find where
Moon goes.
yes. And the most important is suggestion for improving. I don't know, maybe you push too much on the collective, so when we start the descent, we are already below, low on the path. So please, for the next, try to, and you can show him, you can do it with him in the same time, okay, like this. You remember, I think it was with Franck. On OEI, you have to reach 20 degrees or 25 degrees for OEI after TDP, okay? But when you do that, if you explain to your trainee, you have to take 20 degrees, 25 degrees, he's going to check inside and not outside. So the helicopter is going to go by the left, by the right, and so on. So yes, 20 and 25, but when you make your demonstration, show them, okay, look, I push, look outside, you see the altitude, this is 25 degrees. Okay, and like this, no need to check inside. Okay, in final, the same, in final, in OEI, what you have to check, I say all the time, rate of descent. After we have to land, so only rate of descent outside my ground speed and my ground speed and my landing point. Landing point, ground speed outside, inside rate of descent. That's all. We have to land. We have no choice. We are OEI. So no need to check the navigation, to check the GTN, to check the power, not the power, the temperature and oil pressure and so on. We are going to land. If we have another emergency, we are going to land. Okay, so explain, especially with this helicopter, because you have many things. So explain, okay, during the pattern, what I'm looking. When I'm outside, I'm checking this reference to maintain a pattern with a good heading and good track, depend. Okay, explain to them what they have to look, what they have to check during the flight.
And on this
Okay.
case, on this
Oui, vas-y.
on this specific exercise, there is something else you have to be very careful, and you have to be aware of everything, because it happens to me once with a trainee during a Cat A training. He was always getting a very high rate of descent, and he was not either. I said, I cannot believe why. And then I paid a little bit more attention and realized that he was always reducing collective before pushing down circuit. So he's installing the aircraft on the vertical descent before he nose down. So which normally you don't do, because when you have an engine failure, the first action is cyclic, because you still have a little bit of NR, so the aircraft is a little bit more reactive, so a little bit more nervous. So if you lower first collectives, you decrease the pitch angle, so the aircraft will start the descent, and your efficiency, your reaction, responsiveness of the aircraft will be lower. So you remain a little bit longer in your descent, and then you increase your rate of descent, and it's quite difficult to manage it. So it took me a couple of exercises to realize that he had maybe a single engine habit or something like this. As soon as you lose an engine, with a single engine, it's immediately collected down, and then you wait for the pitch, especially if you are high. And this is as well something you can do whatever you want on the nose down. The nose down was correct, so the problem comes from somewhere else. So you have, as an instructor, you have to have a clear side picture of the movie of the exercise. The exercise is a movie, so it's a short movie. Something this happened, this will be the reaction, this second reaction, third reaction, this and this and this. The pedals are maintained on the okay. So you have the clear side picture of the movie, and when the trainee start the exercise, sooner or later there is a misalignment between what you have in your mind and you get in your eyes, okay, in front of you. And you have to know why do we have a difference between the movie you are in your head and the film you are getting in front of you? And this is the job of the instructor. Where start the offset between what I am thinking about and what I am getting? And you have to find out where it comes from. It comes because of the pedals are not maintained, it comes because the pitch is not enough. When we do the rotation exercise, I tell you 20 degrees, because if you go to 15, of course you will not stop the distance as well, and your speed will reduce much lower. So you have to have these key points in mind and put them in parallel and compare them. And as soon as one parameter is differing from the others, okay, you have the first root cause of the unsuccessful exercise. Okay, clear?
Okay. We go on. So strengths are analyzed to give a feeling of satisfaction and show that you recognize what students can do well. I know sometimes it's complicated, but try to find something positive in the flight. I know sometimes it's not very easy, but try to find something.
We are back in one piece.
Yes.
This is already the first success. You didn't crash the aircraft.
Maybe his haircut is very nice or something like that. I don't know. No, I'm joking, of course. But try to find something, okay? Normally, you always have something positive.
Always something.
Always. If you are unable to identify strengths, it will be difficult for students to believe that your identification of weakness is accurate. Okay? Positive reinforcement of a student's strengths will frequently do more for students than any number of remedial suggestions on your part. As I explained, if your student trusts you, sure you can work together and it will be better for him. Organize your fault analysis. I explained a little bit a few minutes ago. Fault. What is the fault? So for this, it's not a problem. You find all the time the fault. Origin. What is the origin? Okay. This is a little bit more complicated. And remedy. What the student has to do to correct this mistake. Okay. Prioritize your fault analysis. First, safety. Okay, all the time. Safety. Second, mechanism of the exercise. Knowledge. It means if he doesn't know the steps of the exercise, it means that it didn't work enough on the book and so on. Okay, so. And then handling piloting skills. I mean, you have, all of you, different skills handling in piloting. It's like this. You have very good pilot and you have average pilot, and it's like this. Is it okay for this? The necessity of analyzing weaknesses is readily apparent. This leads into the third element, specific suggestion for improvement. When you are critiquing a student, consider following. If you are unable to suggest a remedy for overcoming the weakness, your student does not have that weakness, of course. Positive suggestions, as said Florian a few minutes ago, are mandatory for improving future performance. However, you should limit your critique to the identification of a maximum of 3 weaknesses with suggested remedies. What does it mean? It means, I suppose, at the end of the flight in Thailand, in France we do that, you fill a grading sheet or marking sheet, I don't know how you call that here, and you say, okay, good flight, take care of this. But if you write good flight and you put, okay, this one, no, this one not good, this one not good, this one not good, this not good, but sir, you put good flight on. Okay? If it's a good flight, it's a good flight. Finished. I don't know you mark the flight in Thailand. In France, we use color. Blue one, it was the best. Green, yellow, just on average, and after red. And if you have red, you have to repeat the flight. Okay? But if you put good flight, it means normally you have nothing, or maybe. So take care of this. And please don't stay 1 hour with your student at the end of the flight to explain to him this exercise was not good, this one was not good, because after the student is not stupid. You know exactly how was your flight when you are flying with me or with Florian. Wait, yes or no? The student is the same. If he perform bullshit during 1 hour, he knows exactly that he performed bullshit. So no need to stay with him during 1 hour explaining, okay, first exercise will like this. Yes, I know. Shut up, I want to drink a coffee and go back at home because I'm a stupid guy. Okay? So take care of this. And I'm thinking of something very important, especially in the army. When you perform debriefing, especially when the flight was not good, you take office for you and the student. No need to do it here with everybody around. Okay?
Knowing that the basic of training is making mistakes. So it's completely normal that the trainee makes mistakes. There is nothing which is killing me more than a trainee who is not making mistakes. Because sooner or later, he will make some mistakes, but I will not be anymore here to correct them. So then we have an accident situation. Okay? So a trainee who makes mistakes is a trainee who is learning. Our best teacher are our mistakes. When you do something wrong, then on your brain there is something which happens, which identify the situation, identify risk, identify the solution, and maybe identify a way to avoid it. So this is the only way to improve yourself. So if you're the trainee which is doing everything well, I'm not really happy, because sooner or later something will happen and will not be here anymore. So having a training who makes mistakes is completely the standard, the basic, and the goal of the training. So it's not something, it's a shame I have done something wrong. Yes, you have done something wrong, because you're a trainee. If you do nothing wrong, you have nothing to do here. So start to think about this mistake culture, which is something negative. I'm sorry, mistake is something positive. Of course, if you do a mistake 1, twice, okay, 3 times maximum, if you are doing the same mistake every flight, then we have a problem. But making a mistake is something which is definitely not a problem, or it's something normal. Okay, so try to communicate on this as well with your trainee, because we have what we call the Labrador syndrome. We have some trainees who are really so involved about pleasing the instructor, so they are really traumatized if they do something wrong. But hey guys, it's normal. When you start learning walking, you fall down. It's part of the process. When you start flying on an aircraft, you make mistakes. It's a part of the process. So we have to fight against this culture of mistakes are part. No, mistakes are part of the process. Okay? Repetition of the mistake start being done. That's not the mistake itself. Okay? Clear, everybody?
During actual flight instruction, you should attempt to pinpoint a single major weakness before considering the next step by step. As I explained, no need to read too much list of weakness. Try to take the major one, okay, and explain and so on. Okay. Improvement in a student's performance take time, of course. An expert will not appear overnight. More will be learned if a defined improvement in performance is experienced each time the student take part in a lesson. Oui, je pense qu'il faut. The recommended format to follow when conducting fund analysis. When in the air, identify major strengths, pinpoint a major weakness, suggest a remedy to correct that major weakness. Okay? On the ground, identify major strengths, identify a maximum of 3 major weaknesses per flight. Okay? Suggest remedies to correct the major weakness. Okay for this? One way to think of a major weakness is what item, if corrected now, would result in the correction of the greatest number of other faults. A student performance improve, the weakness that originally were considered minor ones now become the only weaknesses. All weaknesses will be dealt, but in order, the most important ones first. Okay? One weakness you have, and you have also, it's in final to maintain the axis. Sure. All the time the noise is a little bit on the right, little bit on the right, little bit on the right. Okay? So it's not the most important weakness in flying. Okay? You have time for this. Effective fault analysis always strives for maximum objectivity. Of course, you should never allow personal bias to affect the grading analysis on any particular flight. Objectivity is the most complicated. Objectivity. Because sometimes you don't have a good relationship with the guy. It's like this. You don't know why, but it's like this. Maybe your student doesn't like you and you doesn't like him. It's like this. You cannot love everybody. Me, I don't like a designer. It's a joke, designer.
But he loves you. I don't understand.
Okay, but it's really sometimes it's complicated. You have to fly with a guy and you don't know why, but you don't have a relationship with him. It's like this. And so you have to stay objective and think only, okay, with objective, 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 objective. That's all. Okay? At times, yes, exactly what I said.
When
The last sentence.
I fly with someone I have no connection with,
Yes, it's
I
like
just
this.
think about the ice beer because I love the ice beer. And each time I fly, I'm killing something like half a square meter of ice pack. So each flight has an impact on the ice beer. So if I fly with someone without any improvement, I'm killing half a square meter of an ice pack, which is impacting the ice bear, and I don't want to impact the ice bear without any profit. So if I have to impact them, I want to do it for some good purpose. So in this case, I do an effort to fly with this guy as professionally as possible, not to impact uselessly. Unsuccessfully. This ice bear is doing something bullshit with the guy. Okay, so it's a joke, but you always have to you fly. This fly must be profitable. So if it's not profitable, it's better to stay on the road.
It's exactly the same. Some of you are going to become examiner. I don't know. You will decide yourself, of course. It's exactly the same. When you are flying with a guy, For example, Poon, you are going to perform the check flight of the student of Squeeze. Squeeze, before the exam, is not going to come to see you and say, Poon, my guy is the bullshit. Or my guy is the best of the best. You say nothing. In France, we fill a document and we say, okay, the student perform some good flight and so on, the skills and so on. Just a presentation sheet for the examiner, that's all. And after, you go to flight and you try to be objective for the flight, okay? And as I explained many times with you, I discussed many times with you, one word very important. Standard, les deux sont acceptés. Oui. Parce que chaque fois j'ai un doute. Et sur mon dictionnaire anglais, ils acceptent les deux. So, this, and especially for the exam and the check flight, it means that when the leader is going to perform a check flight or an exam, he has to follow first exercise, you do this, second exercise this, 3, and so on. You don't decide, okay, with this guy I'm going to do this, and the leader I'm going to do that. No. Every student has to follow the exactly same teaching, and so exactly same exam and check flight. Very important. Okay? Je crois que c'est le S et le S, c'est en fonction de si c'est UK ou US.
For example, I remember that when I spoke with some of you at the beginning of the training, I've been told that in Germany you have been surprised by the lack of standardization. When you fly with Carsten and then you are checked by someone else, there are big differences. Okay? This was, again, one point I've been fighting during the 8 years I was instructor in Germany. I was fighting to have a kind of standardization. That's why we have now a book. But despite the book, we don't have what I have been requesting, to have a continuously, as often as possible, a backseat from one standardization instructor of the company, flying with his colleague on the backseat, just to say, okay, you should speak a little bit less of this, you have done this, okay, it's not anymore the standard. It's not to criticize you, it's just the benefit of the school, the trainee, of the instructor, of everybody. And this is something I have not been successful, and we still have a little bit of drift between, especially some old instructor in Germany, and there is a batch of new instructors who came a couple of years ago, so there is a real lack of standardization, but not standardization bullshit on the paper like we do every year. We have a nice briefing, a nice thing, but nobody is coming back, sitting on the back during a flight, during a briefing, during a theory course, during a simulator course, during a flight course. We have never ever a standardizer instructor coming just to participate, which is the case in Marignan. In Marignan, when you do a ground course, you have sometimes the chief theoretical knowledge instructor coming and participating to the course just to figure out if you are still working within the specific. Of course, everybody is not exactly doing the same, but you have a room you have to remain in. And this is something, if you notice it in Germany, try not to reproduce it here, because this is something that the training needs to have a clear line how we do an exercise, not we do like this with this guy and we do like that with this guy. So at least he needs to have a book, okay, this instructor does like this, and when you are not flying for the instructor, you are flying according to the flight manual. The flight manual is the same for everybody.
And it will be your job, Poon, and your job, Bim, to go back on backseat and to check if all the instructors teach the same. Okay? And if, because sometimes the students are not so stupid And they said, oh, I'm sorry, sir, but with Mini Boy, I didn't learn like this. Okay, I will check with Mini Boy. And after you discuss. And after the student, what you say?
No, and if
Okay.
there is a standardization process, the training will not say that.
Yes.
He knows that you have standardization. If there is no standardization,
Sure.
then it's quite easy to say, yeah, but we have no standard.
So you have really a great work to do for this, because you are 12, and it's it's not very complicated, but if you don't have left limit and right limit, you have to stay between the two limits, because after it will be very complicated for your student, okay? And for you, because after the students are going to say, hey, you see, this guy is not the same, and the trust will disappear, okay?
I always say, training is like ironing. When you put your shirt on the board and you iron it, if you make a edge somewhere, it's done. You cannot remove it. You really have to fight to get rid of it. Okay? You have to wash it again, and then you can iron it again. So training is the same. Everybody must iron the same way to put the edges on the same place. If one is here, one is here, one is here, the training doesn't know where to go. Okay? So it's when you are wearing your nice uniform, everybody is the same. It's the same for them.
Okay?
So you can do ironing now, right?
Yes, always keep in mind that there is many techniques that accomplish the same maneuver correctly. I just want to talk about this, especially in confined area. You remember I explained to you, we have to land in a field like this, okay? With trees and like this, like this, like this, I don't know. The wind is coming like this. And one of you chose to land like this and another one like this. This solution is good, this solution is good. Okay? So,
Yeah, there is always a part of philosophy
Yes.
and an exercise. I have an example. I had an example in Germany. Carsten once was flying back, and he had an engine ship on an engine because we are always flying brand new aircraft. So engine ship are quite common. So because the aircraft are new, engine are new. So okay. Anyway, so we all know that engine ship on an aircraft which has 10, 20 hours of flight is not a big deal. So we all bring the engine on idle, we come back, and just before landing, bring back the engine on flight, like the 145 for example, and then we do it. Carsten, because of his own experience, his own background, decided to make a running landing on one engine. Okay, it's part of the flight manual, so nobody criticized the choice of Carsten, but I wonder. I went to Carsten and I said, why did you choose to make it? We all have would have done differently. Despite this, what you have done is completely allowed by the flight manual, but we are flying the aircraft of the customer. We don't want to go OEI on the brand new aircraft. So we all try to do it this way, bringing back the engine. And he said, yes, but once I had, in my previous career, I had a problem with oil leak and something, and I was concerned that maybe making a running, doing an OEI or something like this could have lead to a problem, a fire or something. Okay, so it's based on his background. So based on his background, he was considering that maybe doing this could have led to something worse. So it's whether you are still in the flight manual procedure, you may have different choices. So there is not only one way of doing. That's why you really have to stick to the flight manual. I don't know if some of you have noticed, sometimes when we are doing something and you choose to do a specific way, I tell you, you can do the way you want. There is nothing written on the flight manual telling you you have to do this. For example, if you prefer flying with not the SVS but the FDS, it's your choice. It's not written on the flight manual, you must put the SVS. So I will never bother you with the SVS. I personally think it's much convenient, but if you prefer to fly with FDS, I have nothing I can say because it's not written on the flight manual that you have to. So it's always something I would like you to keep in mind, always refer to the flight manual. The flight manual is the first standardization between all of you.
Okay, we go on the characteristic of effective fault analysis. You must be consistent in your analysis. Always attach the same importance to an error, provided the circumstance remains the same. Without a consistent set of rules, you will be considered arbitrary or accused of playing favorites. So not objective. Okay, for resume. Honesty is the best policy for critiquing. Okay? If you are honest, no problem. The situation where you may attempt to motivate a weak student by giving better grades than deserve jeopardize the effectiveness of your instruction. Sorry. Students must know exactly where they stand and they given specific suggestions for their improvement. It's very important. Explain to your trainee is on the level, is on the good way for the next flight and so on. Okay? Don't tell him if it's not good. You have to explain to him that it's not good, but explain. And if it's good, yes, of course. Don't worry, we go on, we are going to improve. Don't worry about that.
The same for you. If you do something wrong during demo, you have to explain why.
Exactly.
No, it was okay. It's, no. Don't say it.
I do it again. I'm sorry.
We did a very low accidents on NR, the first photo rotation we did together. So, okay, I've done it wrong. What was it coming from? So it's more profitable for your trainee to make an analyze. Why did I, as instructor, made it wrong? So there must be a reason. It's not because I don't care. No. I'm paying attention on the exercise, and I've been trapped by these small accidents. Okay, so I have to find out why with the training. So I made an analysis, and I spoke with him and said, okay, I started very higher than usual. Here, the density is quite lower, so the NR is quite higher. So my margin was much shorter and smaller than usual. And when the aircraft rotor speed increased a little bit, I got the alarm. But this is the design. Why we have this alarm? It's just to help you not to make an accident. It's inside the process for what the aircraft has been designed this way. So it's not something, it's not a shame. Okay, I've done something wrong, I have to understand why. And it's more profitable for him than to say, no, it's okay, it's just something, a bug. No, it's not a bug. It's something wrong. So I have to know why. So if you explain it to your trainee, he will learn from your mistake as well. He will not only learn from his mistake, but he will learn from your mistake.
Okay. 9:55. 20 minutes. Coffee, breakfast.